Hi guys, welcome back to another video. My name's Ethan and I'm a first year medical student at the University of Manchester. And today I'm going to be talking about what to expect when you come to the University of Manchester to study medicine. This will apply to other medical schools as well, but this is very pertinent for the University of Manchester. I'm basically making this video because it's the video that I know I wanted to have watched when I was coming to the University of Manchester, because there's not a great deal out there on what to actually expect from medical school at the University of Manchester. I didn't really understand what a week would look like. I didn't really understand what the classes would look like, exams would look like, so I'm going to cover everything about that in this video, and if you stick around to the end, I'll give my honest review of first year at medical school at the University of Manchester. So I'm going to start off by discussing the course style a little bit. At the University of Manchester, it's traditionally been a problem-based learning approach. For my year, this has changed to team-based learning, and that's going to continue for future years, so it's more relevant for you. So team-based learning, you're in a group of about 5 or 6 people, very small, great, and you tackle a new case every week. I really like team-based learning personally. Some features of it are at 9 AM every Monday, I know. We open the case with a lecture where the entire entire first year of medical school comes together. It's always a great start to the week, I find, and then it closes every week on a Friday. Time varies depending on which group you're in. But there's about 10 different groups in a room together, and you sit a mini exam, you do lots of questions together, and I just found it an overall really positive experience. I've made some of my closest friends in the medical school through my TBL group, and also my favourite part of it is you get a list of very distinct learning objectives, giving you a clear guidance of what's expected you for the week, whereas problem-based learning wasn't like this at all. You usually had to identify and create the learning objectives yourself, so that's very positive for me. So the week, you probably have about 12 to 15 contact hours a week, which doesn't sound a lot. You're expected to do about 25 hours of independent study outside of that. You can get away with less, but in first year at least, but as a ballpark figure, 25 hours independent and I'd say 13 hours contact. And yeah, let's get into what the contact hours entail because there's so much to cover. So I'm going to start off by talking about anatomy. If there's any current med students watching this, you probably winced at me mentioning anatomy. With me, anatomy is definitely like an enemies to lovers trope. Started off, I really struggled with it. It's an overwhelming amount of content when you first look at what's expected of you, but throughout the year you kind of just figure it out. So with anatomy, there's 2 timetable sessions at the University of Manchester. You've got dissection room and you've got anatomy tutorials. Dissection room is probably unique to about 6 medical schools, I think. I'll double check that. Most universities use prosections, which are previously dissected specimens out there. Manchester has that available in the dissection room too, but the unique thing about Manchester and a couple of the universities is having the full cadavers which can be dissected by the students, and I think it's a great experience. I mean, a lot of people I know don't actually get hands-on with the dissection, but personally I find it really enriching. I find it enjoyable, and I definitely recommend you at least give it a go. You will get shown around the dissection room in your first week, ish. And this was quite funny actually, because it was sort of no real warning about what to expect. And I remember in my dissection room induction, 2 people actually fainted just at the sight, and honestly more the smell of the cadavers, which it's just something to bear in mind. Maybe eat before you go in there. It'll put you off food for a few hours afterwards probably, but you come to terms with it after a while. You know, after a few weeks, it's almost normal for you. So if you're a bit lightheaded and a bit nauseous at the idea of this, don't worry about it, that's totally normal. So you get an hour a week in the dissection room. This day varies. For me, it was usually a Monday. But then you also get an hour of an anatomy tutorial. I should have prefaced this by saying, on the Friday before the week begins, you'll be given a list of learning objectives for anatomy and a resource that has all the information to learn the anatomy you'll need. This is then examined informally in an anatomy tutorial. Mine was on a Thursday, I believe, every part of the year. And these are quite laid back, I'd say. Some people have commented that they've had stricter facilitators, but for me it was always a very laid back session where you could just sort of crush any gaps in your knowledge and assess what you know, because although anatomy does seem like a lot of work for a small percentage of your examinations, I'd definitely say it's worth keeping on top of. I'm gonna sit back. And then we get to the meaty part of first year medical school, which is your biosciences, the social sciences, and your evidence-based medicine. So the learning for these is very independent. I'd say a good ballpark figure is you get 5 hours of lectures a week, encompassing all of these things. But in general, it's very independent learning. You have to teach yourself quite a lot. And while there's lots of resources available and posted by the medical school, I struggled with this initially because it's adapting to a new style of learning. There's a high volume of content and it's not always like straightforward content. So you get a few hours of lectures a week. These lectures are always recorded and the PowerPoints will be posted to the website we use. And so they're there for reference all the time, which is very useful because these are the key things you'll be assessed on are within these PowerPoints. Alongside that, for social science, what's it called? Behavioural and social sciences and evidence-based medicine, every few weeks you'll get a 1 hour seminar, which is sort of a group of 12 to 18 people directed by one of the social science leads. And social sciences is usually neglected and disliked by a lot of medical students. I personally really enjoy it because it's something I'm quite passionate about within medicine, and especially things like health inequalities. But it comes up for the small amount of content that it really is. It's about 20% of your examinations, so it's definitely worth just nailing. Little quick note as well, your lectures are recorded, but personally I always found it much more enriching if I did attend all of the lectures. I probably missed about 2 or 3 in my entire first year. While attendance isn't mandatory, I just find stuff sticks in my head much better if I'm there seeing it. So yeah. And then is a part of med school I had no idea existed until I was in the session, and that's consultation skills. So consultation skills is a 2-hour session you have every week for the entire year, where you're face to face with simulated patients which are actors that the med school employs. And you're working on things like communication skills, physical examinations, like cardiovascular examinations. And I just found this such like a playground in a way. It was so fun. Everyone is so supportive. It was the highlight of my week every week, just rocking up to the session in your formal dress code, which is drilled into your skull by the end of the year. Sorry, getting sidetracked. But it's such an enjoyable session for me. Some people find it a little bit stressful because it is the sort of stuff you will get examined on quite heavily at the end of the year. But for me, everyone is so supportive. You'll never be insulted, really. It's chilled out. It's not overly difficult as long as you've got the empathy required to be a good medical student and doctor. And yeah, I'm pretty sure this is something that exists in most medical schools, if not all. But at Manchester, it's so laid back, so well done, and actually really beneficial. It looks like we've been blessed with some for the rest of the video. But next I want to talk about physiology and pharmacology sessions, which I like to describe as GCSE science practicals. So in semester 2, which is after December, you'll have one session every 2 weeks, and this is to learn things like taking blood pressure, handling bloods, and other really useful skills that you will get examined on. So these sessions are very important to attend, but it's also just a great environment to have a good time with your friends, in a respectful, sensible manner, of course. But these sessions are great, quite chill, laid back again. All the staff are super friendly, super approachable, like chatting to you about nerdy medicine stuff as well, and they're all so friendly. And I'm gonna touch very briefly upon ECE, early clinical experiences. So this will happen twice in first year, and you'll go to a GP practice on 2 occasions. And I could do a whole other video on this, but while only a very small part of the year, I found them really, really enjoyable. A little bit exhausting sometimes, but you see such a wide range of conditions and things that you've not been exposed to yet. But you also see the skills you've learned, for example, in consultation skills in practice, which I found really fascinating. And the GPs that I had, I was blessed with. They were so friendly and so like willing to teach. It was a great experience, and I think that was the general sentiment across everyone I spoke to in the year about the placements. So that's pretty much what your year's going to look like. Now I'm going to touch upon the dreaded exams. So exams are sorted into two types of exam. You've got the formative exams and the summative exams. The formative exams consist of mid-semester tests, so sort of just checking your progress throughout the semester, throughout the year, and these don't count to anything other than a practice towards the main thing. You have 4 of these, 2 in each semester, and they're the same single best answer multiple choice style of your semester test. So you'll have 2 semester tests, one at the end of each semester, so you'd sit one in January and one in May. These are both multiple choice single best answer as well, and these are sort of the main exam. These have the bulk of the content that you've learned throughout the year in them. Then you have progress tests, which are single best answer multiple choice questions, but this one's a little bit interesting. So everyone in the med school from years 1 to 5 sits the progress test. You do 2 of these every year, or at least in first year you do 2. And obviously being a first year, you only know first year content, so the pass mark is really low. It's like 20%, something like that. But throughout your progression of medical school, you should see your scores creeping up until you're hitting as close to 100 as you possibly can. So then we have OSCEs, or as Manchester calls them, CCAs, which is Clinical Competency Assessments. In first year, you'll only have 1 set of OSCEs with 10 stations, and you need to pass 6 to pass the year. So OSCEs are often feared, but I actually quite enjoyed the OSCEs this year. It involves things like talking to simulated patients, physical examinations of patients. There's 2 stations on your anatomy knowledge. There's histology, there's blood handling. There's a variety of things that can come up. Throughout your career as a medical student, these will become much more complex and a much more important part of the examinations, but first year it's more just giving you a taster. And I thought they were really, really useful to assess how things outside of content lectures were going for me. And overall it was very positive, so yeah. And finally we have the Personal Excellence Pathway, or PEP, which is basically a fancy way of saying a group project for first year. For this, you're delegated a topic, you have to do a poster on it, then present the poster with a group of about 6. My poster this year was on the psychosocial consequences of having cancer in your childhood, and I actually really enjoyed this. It was a bleak topic, but the actual process of doing the group project was really useful and built a lot of skills that you don't really touch upon in medical school, but are useful in a scientific career, whether you go into research or anything like that. So yeah, and you'll do one of these every year, but they're quite different every year. So next year it's a literature review on a topic. But first year, all you need to worry about is this poster, and it's quite good fun actually, and I didn't find it too difficult either. Just a little thing I'll touch upon as well is throughout your career as a medical professional and doctor, you'll be required to keep a portfolio of things you've completed, experiences you've had. This starts from first year of medical school. So at Manchester, you'll be delegated an academic advisor who keeps you up to date with this, and there is a pass-fail element to the portfolio. It's not too difficult, but it's something you have to keep on top of, or you might fall behind and then not pass. But yeah, it's just a little niggly addition to the year, something you have to keep on top of. But it's not too difficult or too much hard work, as long as you do little and often. Oh, I got my trusty cranberry juice. So that's been a brief overview of the exams you'll sit in first year, and I hope that's been useful. Just to finish off this video, I'm going to have a little discussion about my experience in first year as a whole. So I found an overwhelmingly positive experience being in medical school. I cannot see myself doing anything else. I will say I struggled in semester 1, and I'm not afraid to say that because adapting to everything, being in a city, being an adult, but mainly the new learning styles and actually learning medicine was a huge challenge for me that I'm so happy I got on top of. I will also say I enjoyed semester 2 a lot more than semester 1. Both the content flowed much more nicely, it was more interesting. You felt a bit more like a doctor in semester 2, obviously I'm 20% of the way there, touch wood. But I found semester 2 was overall much more enjoyable, much more satisfying to learn. And in general, there was much more going on, and I felt better about myself as well. I'd blended in much more well with the university and city living. So yeah, I would recommend Manchester Medical School to anyone considering it. I absolutely love it here, and hopefully I'll see you guys September, later maybe. I'm breaking a sweat in here and I've got to go outside and enjoy the sun. So thank you guys for joining me, and if you enjoy this video, there's plenty more coming, so please consider subscribing.